record it, the Mitzvah Hashem will have this class. We'll be able to refer back to it on our YouTube channel that we have. So we are discussing the 12 tribes of Israel. Let me know if you could see this map. I have some pictures for you. Hopefully, if you can't see this map, tell me, and I will try to make it work. But here, as you see, is a map of Israel. I don't know if it's perfect, this map. I got it from Wikipedia. But basically, you see how Israel's divided. We are holding in our story, in our part of Tanakh, where Yeshua, towards the end of his life, after a number of years conquering Israel, at least conquering some of it, I believe Rashi's opinion holds that Yeshua got till this section here, till Menasha, up to this area.
Are you sharing the map, Rabbi? Because I don't see it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it's good you let me know. Thank you. Okay, good. Now, do you see the map? Okay, good. Perfect. Thanks for letting me know. Great. So basically, up till Menasha, this whole section, according to Rashi, is where they conquered in Yeshua's lifetime. I believe, according to Rashi's opinion, they never made it further north than that, but they still divided it before Yeshua passed away, leaving it for them to conquer even after he passes away. Now, according to other commentaries, he went further north, but I believe, according to Rashi's opinion, it's a little bit complex, that Yeshua only conquered till the top of Menasha. Now, why am I showing you Menasha today? Let's go over what land we already know, what we discussed in the past weeks. First of all, on the eastern side of the Jordan River, right, we have the Jordan River here. Originally, that wasn't part of Israel, but the tribes of Gad and Reuven came to Moshe. This is during Moshe's life, and they already had asked Moshe to keep land because they had a lot of sheep, and it was a very fertile land for them, good for their sheep. So Moses had already given Gad and Reuven land, and he even gave half of Menasha land on the eastern side of the Jordan River. So that already takes care of 2.5 of the 12 tribes. So we have 8.5 tribes left that need to get land. Now, the first land we spoke about, Yeshua gave the tribe of Yehuda. Yehuda was very interesting because the tribe of Shimon, which we didn't get to yet, we'll get to, got their land in the middle, in between cities, in between the tribe of Yehuda. But in the previous lesson we spoke in great detail so far about the general borders of Israel, and then we spoke in great detail in the previous lesson all about Yehuda's land. The next land we go to is the land of Menasha and Ephraim. We begin with Ephraim, and we're going to learn today the border specifically of the tribe of Ephraim. Let me see if I can zoom in a little closer on this map. I have closer maps too that I also kind of did by hand. They're not perfect, but let me see if I could zoom in. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this land. Now, why do we jump? Why do we go from Yehuda to Menasha and Ephraim? Because they're both going to be kings of the Jewish people. There's going to be a major split between the southern tribes and the northern tribes. And Menasha and Ephraim, the children of Yosef, of the Menasha and Ephraim are both the sons of Yosef. They will kind of lead the tribes to the north in opposition to the tribes to the south. So they're the two kings, Menasha and Ephraim. If you remember, they were two sons of Yosef. Yosef had two sons. One was Menasha and one was Ephraim. And one of them was kind of Yosef's right-hand man. His son kind of worked with him in politics. And the other one was Ephraim, the other child stayed with Yaakov by his bedside and learned Torah with him. So they were both very talented. Remember the famous story where Yaakov switched his hands and he put one hand in one. Yosef got all nervous. And Yosef was saying, put the older one for the younger one. The bottom line is, over here, we're first going to tell you about Ephraim, about the greatness of Ephraim. And that is what we are going to talk about. Now, some things are going to come very interesting. You could actually see it in the map already. You see there's a city called Shiloh. Shiloh is very important to the Jewish people. And I'm actually going to jump right here now on the map to show you another thing. Let me know if you don't see it. But there was an article recently that I shared, tell me if you could see it, about Shiloh from some of the historians and the archaeologists. And they say Shiloh is 40 kilometers from Jerusalem. And according to most archaeologists, they believe that they found the area where the Mishkan stood for 400 years. So if you remember the history a little bit, there was a gap of a very long time, about 400 years, from when the Jews in Joshua's time now came into Israel until they're going to build the Beis HaMikdash by David HaMelech, by King David, right? By King David, by David HaMelech. And where did the Jews pray during that time? So they built it wasn't as, movable as in the desert, but it was more permanent. It was still a Mishkan, it was still a tabernacle, it wasn't the temple, but almost for 400 years, most of the time that the Jews lived there before King David and King Solomon will build the actual Beis HaMikdash in Jerusalem, they were in a place called Shiloh. And why is that connected to today's class? That's very interesting, because as you'll see, where was that? In Ephraim's area. So the Beis HaMikdash, we all know, will be built in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is right on the border of the territory of Benjamin and Yehuda, right? So the Jews will always go there. It will actually be in Benjamin's territory, but it will kind of be sticking into Yehuda's territory. In Ephraim's area was the famous Mishkan of Shiloh. We're going to mention it today. This famous Mishkan, we're going to mention it today, was in his border. They were very lucky that they had that there to recount a story that we mentioned in our Chumash class. Very interesting. If you remember, when Yosef, right? Yosef met, who was it? Yehuda, right? And they were crying on each other's shoulders. And Rashi says there that they were crying about the temples that will be destroyed in each other's, I'm sorry, Benjamin, like Joseph and Benjamin, were crying on each other's shoulders. Joseph and Benjamin, remember, they are actually two brothers, one after another. Joseph is from the Rachel, and so is Binyamin is also from Rachel. When they meet up, when Joseph becomes the king after being sold, and Benjamin, they cry on each other's shoulders, and they're both crying because they know that each other's temples will get destroyed, and they're crying for each other. So Benjamin actually has the temple, Beis HaMikdash will be in Benjamin's area, and Shiloh will be in Ephraim's area. It's just something that comes from our interesting discussion in the area, how Israel is divided in today's class. Okay. I'm going to also, let me show you all the pictures now. You can read this article on Chabad.org. Here is Bet El, very famous city again, town, right? Here you see in the Bet El, it's an Israeli settlement located, it's in the Binyamin region of the West Bank. Over here, again, we're going to make also reference and mention to the city called Beth El. Another interesting area, which I'll just show you now already, fascinating. We're going to mention the waters. We're going to mention the waters of Jericho. Another famous story happens over there in these waters of Jericho. It's going to be mentioned in today's class. Very interesting. Play you a video of it even.
Elijah Spring.
Anyway, so they believe that is where the spring is today that we're going to mention. And a very big miracle will happen in that area is Elisha, who is the student of Elijah, the prophet. When he becomes a prophet, will do a number of very great miracles. And the water was somewhat poisonous and was harming people, either pregnant women or so on. And he will do a miracle and change the water and kind of cure it, that it shouldn't be harming people anymore. So all these things are going to be in today's lesson. Let me show you on let me know if you can't see that. This is my map I did by hand. Sorry, it's not so clear, but we'll have to, it's good because it literally goes by the verses and allows us to see the locations by the verses. So let me just share with you what we're going to see in the map today. So we're going to start with the border, the southern border of the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, that's right here. That's number one. We're going to pass by the waters of the Jordan. I just showed you the picture.
You're not sharing the map, Rabbi.
Okay, good. Let me know. Thank you. I'm for some reason it doesn't. You see it now? Okay, good. So Jericho is right here on the eastern southernmost tip of Ephraim. We're going to go along in our class today, along the southern side of Ephraim. Remember, he's a little bit on top of Yehuda, which we learned last week, and Benjamin's kind of sandwiched in between Yehuda and Ephraim. We're going to pass right here the waters of the Jordan that I just showed you the video of. which is called today, they call it Ein Sultan. So I guess you could go there today. And that's where Elisha had the miracle changing the water. I just showed you the video. We're going to pass through that border. We're going to go to Bethel in a place called Luz. There's a debate among the commentaries. Is Bethel and Luz the same place, or are they right next to each other? We mentioned it also in the verse in the Torah. It's a question, but around the same area in Bethel. Then we're going to go down south. The border will turn down south to a place called Ashtaros. Okay, there's also a very famous place in the Navi for a woman called Devorah, a woman judge who judged people out of modesty under the tree. That was in Ashtaros. That was over here. Another reason why that's famous later on. We're going to go down toward the lower base Haran, because there's going to be all the way on top, the upper base Haran. We're going to pass by the border, the lower base Haran, and go until Gezer. Now, by the way, here is the Mediterranean Sea. It's going to sort of kind of peek out, the verse tells us, towards the Mediterranean Sea, not actually touching the Mediterranean Sea, because I'm going to go to the other picture. Let me know if you can't see it. The Ephraim did not actually get to the Mediterranean Sea because Dan and Menasha's tribes kind of sandwiched between them and the Mediterranean Sea, so they won't actually make it there, right? If you don't see, I'm going back to the map now. They kind of the border, the southern border hits a place called Gezer. Then we're going to go all the way north. We're going to say that Ashtaros is the southernmost tip, and the length of it all the way north is the city of Upper Beis Haran, and Michmasas, another place called Michmasas over there, kind of the border goes around those two places. The border will then turn west as it goes down along the eastern side of the border. It will go in west to get to the city of Shiloh. Remember, Tanas Shiloh means the area of Shiloh, which is where the Mishkan was. It made it in their border. I think I saw actually that right next to them was their, the tribe of Menasha, which was upset that they kind of just missed getting Shiloh. The tabernacle was not in their area. It wasn't there. It was in Ephraim's area. So the border will go to Shiloh. The temple will be there. That's where the Mishkan will be. And then we'll move down. It will go back. The eastern border will go back towards the east again, plus a place called Rasha, and then finally get back to Jericho. And then we'll hit the two ends of our borders. As we explained, the southernmost border and the easternmost border. We will then go to the northern border. It will go slant towards a place called Tapuach, and then go downwards till the river, I think it's Canaan. There's a river Canaan that goes into the tribe of Ephraim, and the border will follow along this wadi over here, the river, the wadi of Canaan. And here's something else interesting, which we didn't see yet in our class, something called the separated cities. What does it mean that there are separated cities? That even though Menashe's area will be this whole huge section, Ephraim will own towns and cities in Menashe's area that will belong to the tribe of Ephraim, which we're discussing today, although they are situated and located in the area of Menashe. Okay, and then one more thing we'll finish with is that Gezer, this area, will never fully conquer it, and the Philistines who will be there will continue to live in the tribe of Ephraim. They won't kick them out fully, and they'll continue to settle and live in that land. So let's go inside. We'll see the verses inside. I'll jump back and forth to the map. Hopefully it will be easy to do. But we're going to go now to the verses so we could actually learn the Tanakh inside. And then we'll go to, we'll show you the map as we go. Let me just shut the other, I'll just keep that open. Okay, let's start right here. We'll do it with Rashi's commentary. And we'll see. Vayetze Hagoyro, and the lottery, because remember we were learning that there's a big lottery that's made. They had the Kohen Gadol, the heads of all the tribes are there, and it's deciding exactly who gets where. No, I guess the lottery is maybe even indicating the cities that we're going to learn about today. Vayetze Hagoyro, the lottery went out, Livnei Yosef, to the children of Yosef, right? Because he ended up being two sons. That's why there's 12 tribes, because you take out Levi. Levi doesn't get a big area of land of real estate. So you're down to 11, but then you split Yosef into two, so we have 12. Meyardin Yericho, so starting from the southernmost border, which will include both tribes, because both tribes will work their way up on top of that border. Meyardin Yericho, from the Jordan River, Limei Yericho, to the waters of Jericho, right? Let's just go back to our map for a second to show you where we're starting from. Okay, so here's the Jordan River. We're going along the southern border. So from the city of Jericho, where the waters of Jericho is, starts from the Jordan River, the city of Jericho by the Jordan River, and we work our way south past this area, which are the waters of the Jordan, which I showed you in the video that we just saw before. Okay, let me go back to the verses now where we're holding. Mizracha, to the east, the waters of Jericho on the east, meaning that the waters of Jericho were inside, I think that means, of the border. So, or maybe I'm sorry, that means that the border is going to the east of the city of the waters of Jericho, of that place called the waters of Jericho. Ola, it's going up, the Yericho Bahar, kind of a mountainous area. There's kind of like it goes up, or as you saw in the map, the way I showed you in the map is that the borders actually goes upwards towards Bethel, towards the city called Bethel. Just show you the map, how you see the lines are made. You see, notice it goes upwards, it's going upwards towards Base El, meaning it's going north, or it's going in a kind of a mountainous area. Either way, that could be a meaning of that. The verse is describing the border as going up. Vayetze mi Base El Luza. Now, let's just do the Rashi here for a moment, as I showed you going back to our map. At the northern boundary of the end of Joshua's conquest, the lot fell for them, meaning Rashi holds that the northernmost part of where Joshua conquered, even as I showed you in the map before, the Jews will have to conquer more land, but we are discussing now the northernmost tip, which was conquered at the time, which Joshua conquered, which was the tribes of Ephraim and Menasha, the children of Yosef. Now, much of the land was between the children of Yehuda and the children of Yosef. There was still a big gap to go back to show you what Rashi's saying. It was, even though we're jumping from the tribe of Yehuda to the tribe of Ephraim and Menasha, there's still a big gap here, which will go to Benjamin and which will go to Dan. But we are right now describing the southern border of Ephraim, and the Menasha will just be, and Dan, other tribes will be in between them. But we're discussing the northernmost area where Rashi's saying of where the Jewish people conquered it at that time, at that point in time. Okay. Vayatza mi Beis El. And you go up, the border continues, it goes up from Bethel. Guys, if you can't see the text, let me know, but I think you should be able to see the text here. Luza to the area called Luz. And I told you the commentaries discuss, is Bethel and Luz the same place, or are they near each other, based on questions from the Torah, which we also have those names mentioned when Yaakov goes there. Va'avar el hagvul ha'arki ataris, and it goes by the area. Arki, the commentaries say, could mean like the area called Ataros. It goes down and goes south down to the city of Ataros, which I'll show you the map in a second, we saw before. Vayarad Yama, and then it went westward. El Gvul HaYifleti, to the Yifleti border, Ad Gvul Beis Chayron, until the lower Beis Chayron Tachton, the lower Beis Chayron, which I showed you on the map. Va'ad Gezer, until the city of Gezer, HaYitetzayis Yama, and it's goings out, the whole border was going out to the sea. So just to show you this point, which we're talking about now in our map, go back there. So Bethel goes down to Atarais, and then it goes past the lower Beis Charon and goes out towards Gezer, which doesn't actually hit the Mediterranean Sea, but you see it's the furthest western point, which the land is pushing out in the direction and heading towards the Mediterranean Sea is where his border is. Let's continue right along. And that is Vayinchalu v'nei Yosef, Menasha and Ephraim, and they're going to inherit the land, Menasha and Ephraim. So the southern border is telling you the land of Menasha and Ephraim because it's playing the land for both of them, because both of their lands are going to be on top of that southernmost border. And then let us talk about specifically the borders of Ephraim. Even though we spoke about the southern border, we need to still tell you the northern, eastern, and western border. So the border for Ephraim, the Mishpachaisam, to their families that tribe had, Higvul Nachlasam Mizrach Atarais Adar Ad Beis Chayron Elyon. So we're going to describe the eastern side of the border from the top, from the north, going down to the whole eastern border. Vayatza Hagvul Ayama Hamichmasais Mitzafan. The border went down towards the west of a place called Michmasais that was right on the northernmost tip. So it was called the upper Beis Choron, hit a point. I'll show you the map again. At the northernmost tip, went around a place called Michmasais, Mitzafoin to the north side of it. So it went all the way to the city called Michmasais on the north side of it. Menasha v'Gvul Mizracha, and the eastern border went down and went towards the east of a place called Tanas Shiloh, which is that area I told you, Shiloh, where the tabernacle will go. Mishkan Shiloh will be in the border of the tribe of Ephraim. Va'avar Oisei Mizrach Yenucha, and it will continue to pass along the eastern side of a place called Yenucha. And what will happen? The Yarad Miyanoicha Atarais, and then from Yanoicha it will go down to a place called Atarais, which is another Atarais. We had Atarais before, but that was along the southern border. Now we're describing the eastern border. The Naarasa, and a place called Naarasa, which we're going to see in our map now, Ufaga B'Yericho, until it hits the city of Jericho. Yatza Hayardin, that went out to the Jordan River. So let's go back to our map. We just finished describing the eastern side. We'll take questions afterwards. Sorry, let's just finish the map and then we'll go over any questions afterwards. So upper Beis Charon goes around a place called Mechmesas. This is the northernmost tip going around it. Goes down to get into Tana Shiloh, the area of Shiloh, where the tabernacle used to be, and Kanoach passes along the eastern border, then stretches out back towards the Jordan River, goes all the way to a place called Narasa, which is along the Jordan River, and comes down to the southern border, which we started describing before, which is the city of Jericho. And for that, we have finished the eastern side of the border of the tribe of Ephraim. Then let's go to the north. Mitapuach Yelech Hagvul Yama. Then from the northern tip, we start going from east to west. The border will go to a place called Nachal Kana, the river called Kana, which I'll show you in the map again. Yama, and again, it leans out. The border stretches out and goes towards the Mediterranean Sea. That is the tribe of Ephraim, the northern part. Ephraim, and on top of that northern border, there were still more cities that were separated cities into the tribe of Menasha, and all the cities and their villages that belonged to them, but in Menashe's territory. However, although they're conquering all this land, and we said they conquered the whole area, Yeshua, they did not conquer the Canaanite people that lived in a place called Gezer. The Canaanites lived amongst the tribe of Ephraim. Until this day, however, they became kind of their servants. They worked for them. Those people that remained behind worked for the tribe of Ephraim. Let me go back to the map and show you what that means. So we had the northern thing going to Tapuach, and then the border goes straight down to the Canaan Valley, and then that is where the tip of the border was. Now, Gezer was never, we said that the Canaanites still lived in a place called Gezer. I think if you remember learning that there was a large section here which they weren't able to conquer from the Canaanites, that area where they did not conquer the land. It was a very powerful region. I think it was the Philistines or so on were there, but they weren't able to conquer that area over there. And that, I think, is the end of the tribe of Ephraim's, some of the history behind the conquering Yeshua of the tribe of Ephraim.